This is AV Super Friends Perspectives, a collection of interviews, discussions, and presentations from conferences, trade shows, and events that just don't fit either of the other two shows. Some are long, some are short, but they'll all have valuable insights, useful information, or just good conversation with thought leaders and subject matter experts. And now, the AV Super Friends. For June 15, 2023, it's the AV Super Friends Perspectives InfoComm Thingy Show number 17. 214 episodes of this so far.
Recorded since yesterday.
Again.
Yes.
It feels like it.
We are recording so many episodes, we're just deleting them when we're done.
Yeah. We're
I haven't checked the recorder yet, so that might be
out.
happening.
Justin was paranoid about that, so it's possible.
I might have deleted all 75 of them.
Yes.
We'll go redo them right now.
So, my name's Chris, again, no last name by popular request, joined today by Mark, Jamie, Larry, Justin, and
Special
a very special friend of the show, I would say top friend of the show,
I would agree.
Darryl Krall from Panasonic Connect.
Yeah, we were just tabulating the votes real quick, and yes, you came in as
Well,
the top.
we did deliberately give him the first
I was going to say that.
secret, we won't say what it is, but first limited edition swag went to Darryl.
I feel like at this point you can almost say what it is. I feel like it's out there enough.
It's an NFT, right? But I do have
one Satoshi.
It's an NFT that has serial number 000001.
That's going to be worth like 25 cents one day.
Right.
It was worth at least $4 when it came into existence.
Yeah, $4.
Because you paid for it.
Well, thank you guys. I'm truly very proud. And as you know, I think you're all wonderful and love what you do, as crazy and fun-loving as it is. And I will say this, and it's fun to be with you guys not only at InfoComm but throughout the year. But I will just say that, you know, we went to a kind of a unique room with a lot of our engineers from the U.S. and other places around the world, including Japan, and they started to like you pretty much immediately based upon your questions and
that was
interest.
you took us into, you blindfolded us, gagged us.
We did
said,
have to go to the. You can't talk about
he only
this.
blindfolded you, Mark.
I'm not talking about it.
Just
You're
walked right
talking
in.
about it.
I was the only one blindfolded.
And all of that, and it was still the highlight of the show so far.
I would say it's the thing that we want to talk about that we can't.
Yes.
Yeah.
If there ever was something we wanted to talk about, we absolutely could not.
But
it's that space.
you know,
So we won't talk about it
There
anymore.
was some crazy voodoo math going on in there.
It was really cool that Panasonic thinks enough to let us in on some of those conversations, and it's neat, and it's also neat and it's good to hear that people like, oh, these nerds maybe do have something to say.
And we've done that for several years. We've gone into the engineering boutique room, smoke and mirrors, glass, like secret society of Panasonic, and have always had the engineers there listening. Now, I would say that for a business to have engineers as close as they are to us crazy folk, listening and actually taking notes and asking, does this work, does it not work, would this be something that would actually solve a problem, I think is an amazing and speaks a lot of volume to the company.
Your whole company, and it's not just us. I mean, we know that there's been higher ed folks invited to Japan to meet with the engineers, and that just, again, to reiterate what Mark says, is Panasonic believes in higher ed, and higher ed also respects Panasonic enough to go, okay, cool. So we really appreciate that part.
It's a lot of fun, and that's one of the things where it's not like, oh God, I got to go to InfoComm. I'm so excited that literally in the last 2 days,
He's told us about 17 lies.
There was 19. You just weren't listening, Jamie.
There's 2 more lies that you
Well, I
haven't picked
did
up
zone
on.
out there for a little bit.
I don't
Short
blame you.
attention span.
What?
Short? Come on.
Larry?
Another short
But no,
joke.
truly, I mean, it's fun. Literally having experienced a full week in the last 2 days, not only with you guys, but all the people that are involved with getting the booth set up and everything else. And it's just not 3 days at Vegas or Orlando, but it's ongoing.
And I will say, the spread you have done for us today, the fact that you built this booth for us was rather impressive.
Especially rent-free.
This is a very high-class
You keep
production
bringing
studio.
up the rent-free, Justin, and we're going to start getting billed.
We don't have.
I'm not sure.
We don't have a big budget now anymore.
You spent a lot of money, which I'm very impressed by. If you haven't seen the AV Super Friends travel kit for podcast, it's very impressive.
Larry put that on the tweeters for us.
I did see that. and that's where I was like, I have to see that in person. It's incredible. The audio quality is fantastic, and so kudos to you guys. So,
and thanks for the help with that.
Absolutely, lifting it on the table. You mean?
No.
But it's fun. I mean, hello. Yes, we have callers incoming in. Or
hello, this is Jerry from Dubuque, Iowa.
Yes.
Hello,
well, Jerry, how?
Hey, I know that guy.
Dude, I know.
He owes me $20.
Jerry calling on the collect line. Jerry, go ahead. What's your question?
What do you think about Chat GPT?
Well, let's get to Jerry's question then. So we're just going to kind of talk about trends we've seen for day 2, and one of the things we brought it up briefly this morning, but we're seeing a lot of not just AI enabled, but we're seeing a lot of the things, and I'm using the specific phrase, powered by Chat GPT.
Mm-hmm.
And there seems to be a lot of that. Some are very marketing-ish, as you would expect.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And some are clever, almost hacks, for lack of a better term, that it's like, well, why didn't I think of that? And I like these why didn't I think of that moments. So, Mark, I know you guys went back to deep dive on one that we saw from...
Yes, we went in deep. I brought it this morning, and you shut me down. You said the world was not ready for it yet. But we are now more mature as a society
go back today
to talk about AI in the last 8 hours, and I appreciate that. Yes, I think there's
8?
AI, little AI, and then there's big AI, like little data, big data, right? And we looked at the Liberty... what was it? The Liberty
Chat GPT thing?
Yes, we'll get it and put it in the show notes. AI, and it was a really interesting platform that wasn't just tied to their product. It was literally a ingestion point for your systems fed into their system that was open to Chat GPT to be scraped so you could have support. So you could put your information of your system in there and say, "Hey, how do I make this work?" And it would say, "Oh, did you turn this on? Did you try that?" And
really,
and it was amazing because you're starting to see now the analytic piece, right? Your data from your systems in a searchable database that Chat GPT API can now query.
Now, it was more, because at first...
It was more.
At first,
I have a very limited amount of language to speak, so I'm doing the best I can,
I
Jamie.
want people to know that when you first see it, you think, well, this is just another one of them stupid chatbot things.
Teleportivity AI or something like
Teleportivity,
that. Something along those lines.
So,
by the way, I just want free marketing advice. That's a terrible name.
Well, whatever.
It took you guys like 5 minutes to remember.
It's been a really long day.
They just spun this thing up like...
It was done in AI, though. They came up with that.
Well, they asked ChatGPT, what would you like to be called?
Exactly, and that's what came out.
And that's what it came out. Yeah.
On the surface, it just seems like another chatbot. That's what it's on the surface.
You would think. That's what you think.
They had it tied into 2 different ways, right? They had like a digital signage thing, and you could actually speak to it if you wanted to. But it was all built around this locally created wiki of sorts that kind of tailored its answers, as ChatGPT would, to where you wanted it to go instead of just the generic deal. And even I was like, wow, okay.
Yeah, you think it's like, oh, this is not real. And then when we did a demo, we said, well, when was this system last serviced? And it spit out, well, here are the components that exist in this system. Here's where the dates when it was last dealt with, right? And so think about that now from your analytics gathering in your spaces, your classrooms, your meeting rooms. And then they also add like the back-end support. Like, I can't get my HDMI to work. What could be going wrong? And it's like, oh, this is plugged into this thing, it's into that, and here, or how to start my meeting. So think about what that means from your support staff, right? What it may mean for your service and getting that data back to tell that story, but also, does that free you up? Does that create, remove that stuff off, that low-level tier 1, tier 0 support piece? Are we just outsourcing that out? And then, does that change the way we think about how AI is going to leak into this industry? Because I think we've all seen the AI-driven cameras, the AI-driven microphones, the AI-driven conference tables, and the AI that's not what this is.
Is this table AI-driven?
This table is. No, I brought it in myself. And in my
Again,
car.
Did you check this?
Lie number 20.
Just check luggage.
23. It wasn't lost.
That's really interesting.
My luggage wasn't lost.
It was delayed.
We know where it went.
We should have asked just the generic question that all instructors ask. Did this system ever work?
No, but I think what's interesting is I think you're seeing a few different platforms out there that are allowing you to start to gather all of these sensors and Internet of Things widgetry that's out on the edge and aggregate that. And Darryl, I want to get into a little bit here what we have on the Panasonic, 'cause I think you're actually aligned in thinking that same way. Panasonic's obviously seeing the writing on the wall here because we have a lot of this data scraping going on and where that is and in that connected classroom kind of environment, right?
Uh-oh.
No, they're kicking us
thrown out.
No,
we're gonna push it.
The show is ending, but like any good AV group, we keep going. So we can keep going. I'm not paying attention.
Perfect.
What?
A bit of editing from Mark here.
No,
It's kind of fun. It's real time. Just roll
Yep.
it.
It is what it is.
Yeah. I don't hear anything.
You had another thing on the AI thing first before we dive into some of the other.
The only other thing that I've heard today about Chat GPT is I was talking with one of the major manufacturers, some of their engineers, and they told me that the company has banned the engineers from using Chat GPT to help with their designs or to check their designs at all.
Of Chat GPT itself.
Yeah,
because it's going to run wild and it's all going to be Skynet.
Well, it's all because of copyright issues and fair and the intellectual property. Because once you submit it to have
once it's in there, it's out
in there.
and
Okay.
if you
It's like Ragu.
and if you
It's out
ask
there.
it for code or ask it for design help, well, it's gotten that from somewhere else. So all of a sudden, the intellectual property you're using is from somewhere else and opens them up for
Right.
lawsuit. So that part was interesting. That
So
the legal
clear one.
team is starting to stop this before the engineers really
that was
get a chance.
a lot to get my mind around. You had like the in out of there, start the stopping of this. That was a lot.
It is a lot,
and that's
but
kind of
it's-
what AI is right now.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're basically saying, yeah, we have value in doing this, but we can't use it yet.
Well, but I think it's the different narrative. Like we're used to like seeing things, hearing things, and now the AV industry has like migrated to this full-on data capture, storage, replication, and how do I use it? With Skynet telling us that our projectors are about to go offline.
Yep.
Is that about where we are right now? Is that?
So did the Panasonic hire Skynet, or are you creating it?
That I couldn't tell you nor divulge that answer. But no, it's certainly something that's impacting technology, humanity, and everything else. So is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Yes. How are we using it? It's kind of interesting when you talk about like some of the things we do in auto tracking, and we do it very different in very different ways, and that's inclusive of facial recognition, which has been around for a long time, as well as pretty much started in our security line, and so all that continues to merge and develop, and now it will probably be expedited in its development, and so that's the big challenge. How do we manage it? And maybe we don't manage it. Is it managing us, Hal? I don't know.
Right.
So
Hal.
But so yeah, to be determined. I don't think anybody has the right answer. It's fun to try and keep up, but it keeps changing. So what's the impact from a government perspective, FCC perspective, legal perspective, technological perspective? Everything's impacted by this significantly. Where the internet was really cool and revolutionary, ultimately kind of changed our society and around the world. But this will have the same impact, but maybe even better. Maybe even worse?
In your discussions about like the connected classroom stuff, are you hearing those kind of concerns? Like, where does this stop? Where does this end? Or I wish I could?
Yeah.
What are some of the things you hear about? Because I don't think we've ever really dived into that.
Well, and also describe the culture difference. How do because your manufacturers are mostly in Japan, right? Your engineers are mostly in Japan.
Engineers are around the world, just like a lot of our manufacturing can be.
So, what does other countries view this differently than us, or is it about the same?
I think every country is a little bit different because it's definitely a cultural kind of thing. If you're embracing technology for technology's sake, everyone fundamentally does in whatever country, but what is the impact on something like this in Asia versus the US or something else? So that's kind of the unknown.
So in the trend thing, kind of getting back to where we saw it, I've seen multiple vendors out here, manufacturers that have a platform of sort that is agnostically scraping data from endpoints, right? And storing it for you, giving you real-time analytics, dashboarding. Is it too far to just assume that all of that will be within the database that the Chat GPTs of the world will then have at their disposal to say, okay, in my support desk, let me see where we're at on this or that. So I think that's where it's going to get interesting, right? How does that change the way we look at our deployments, or like what we look for in product? Is it capable? Is it not capable? Is it safe? Is it zero trust? Whatever it means. Because I think it's just a bigger thing than we've all ever had to deal with until now, and here it's coming at us real fast.
It's security issues, like you just put, if you're using, let's say, some remote management system that's agnostic or whatever, is that within your own network?
You like how you threw that in there.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens to be provided by who?
Well, Panasonic is working on a lot of technologies. Part of that is helping you manage all these tools and components and appliances. So, we'll talk a lot more about it as it progresses. But
a management system that's agnostic. They happen to be putting one together.
Which looks pretty impressive. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
There's still more work. We're in pilot phases, engineering from pretty much around the world. But, I think the U.S. is leading the charge in this area. Because there's systems that are out there that do, management and pull data, and we already have software like that. Our early warning software does things like that. And literally, if you go back, 20 years, there is a free software today that's about 20 years old. It's been updated, but PJ Link, for any of you who are familiar, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You could look into the projector. The projector's on.
Give me emails at all hours
Exactly.
of the day. Your bulb's got this many hours on it. You better come replace it right now.
Preventative maintenance, exactly. So we've been in that space, but certainly all these new technologies and network functionality and management. But when you start talking about AI and where could that information go? Do you hold on to it at University of X or company of X? Is it your data because it's on your network, or does it somewhere get out into Never Land where you lose control?
Right, and I think that's just such a different world than we've all been used to. Like, I need to get this signal to there. Like, that's just not at all anything like we've done in the past. And I think and you're seeing that on the floor. Everything is acknowledging that is the trend, and that's where we're moving towards. So at least that's what I'm seeing. Maybe I'm wrong. Chris, what are you seeing that you think was maybe a little bit interesting here on day 2?
So one of the things I noticed, and it kind of struck home in one of the last booths we saw late this afternoon, and talking with them, went in with this general, and it's the first time I'd heard it recently. Several years ago, when AV over IP started to become a thing, there was always this kind of like, let's take 2 or 3 minutes and explain how this is different from baseband video versus broadband video or broadband signaling. And today, we just jumped right in at a manufacturer's booth and said, tell me about this and how does this fit in my ecosystem, and this is what I do and this is how I'd use it, and let's talk about this as a platform. And the representative took a step back and was like, well, do you know how AV over IP works? Do you know what we're talking about here? And I thought, it's interesting because several years ago we always had to have this conversation, and now it's just the assumption that we know that. Yeah, we've done hundreds or thousands of these things. It's well accepted. Let's go. And yet, was it just 2 years ago or a year ago where people were asking, like, hey, has anyone looked into this AV over IP stuff? Is this new?
It's a fad.
Is this a fad? It's like the internet. It's never going to catch on.
And it seems to just have in the last, year and a half or 2 years, just like, yep, we're doing it. We're still doing the other stuff too, but this is accepted. Whatever platform you're using, whatever protocol, whatever system, we're doing this thing. We all, most of us, we all understand it. We all claim we understand why we're doing it, or are we just doing it because that's what's being sold our direction? I don't know, but it was interesting. It was an interesting moment for me that this is now we're all in.
But in that kind of somewhere in the
Keep
spirit
in mind, there's
of
still no standard. It's just
and that's kind of where the standard base. Are you all getting around any sense that the gated walled kingdom is coming down, and we're going to see more interoperability? Or
I hope so.
I'm not sure. I think we're at that tipping point
precipice
where everybody wants to see interoperability. They want everything to be able to work with everything else, and I don't know from the manufacturer's perspective if they like that or not. And I think people are trying to gauge what is going to happen over the next 2 years here.
I think that's what we're going to investigate tomorrow.
Okay.
Well, I question for Darryl on this from the manufacturer side. Some of the things a lot of things we looked at today when we talked about AV over IP, the 3 that came up from the Panasonic Connect side were NDI, SRT, and SMPTE 2110. None of which are your proprietary protocols.
Nope.
You're like, look, here are things out in the industry. We're going to just get these and use them.
Any fish you wish.
Right.
So why is that approach different as opposed to like, no, we're going to build our own thing and we're going to keep it over here and you have to buy our endpoints to do our thing?
I think technology and companies who are involved with technology have maybe learned their lessons. Certainly they would love to have some proprietary universal use of whatever, and we've seen it with a lot of companies that maybe is in your hand right now.
A lot of fruit companies.
Yeah, exactly. And
fruit companies with weird connectors.
And you could even go back to, because I've been around long enough to remember the Betamax VHS format
collection.
wars.
Yeah.
But it's really because it's more it's zeros and ones, right? So how you do it, and like the different technologies. If you looked at our digital link, which is HD-based T. A standard,
right.
But by the way, it has an RS-422 port in it. So it's different, and we called it digital link. And once people knew that, then they're like, oh, okay, it works, and you plug it in, and guess what? It works and give you a little bit more. But you're right. It's like, will always be easy to plug in, and, it takes time. Like people in the commercial world did not like HDMI because it didn't have a connecting,
it didn't lock.
It didn't lock.
There was
I
no
remember
latch.
there was 100
connector.
right?
Well, there's a company with an XLR that didn't lock either.
But that's a perfect example. So exactly. And so, you have to adapt to, that's a consumer format and we don't want that. And guess what? We all have HDMI in pretty much everything we make.
Right.
So it's same thing with the network and how everything, we started with network products easily, over 15 years ago. So what do I do with that? And so now it's just, it has to be on there. And now what do you do with that?
As far as was there ever any thought given to like creating your own internal codec? That I'm sure there'll be an engineer who could explain why this one is better because
Absolutely.
of X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
But if it only works with your specific equipment and endpoints.
Yeah, those guys are in that room that you weren't in today.
Well,
I still have my blindfold on, by the way.
Kudos to them. To every time that one of the engineers here brought up AV over IP, it was always NDI, SRT, or simply 2110.
Or whatever.
Standards.
Whatever
it was
want.
great.
Standards.
And there may be a few we're missing. What are we missing? You look at our Kairos system, it takes anything. It's an ingest point. It's a production facility, a production system that's, AV over IP, a core product, and you build it however you want. It's scalable. That's what we're using for this immersive display that we have here at InfoComm. It's the basic screen management of, taking the content that's going to 7 projectors that are in all different crazy directions.
Impressive.
And thank you. It's the engineers who, the content is important, but, making all that stuff happen. So when you come back tomorrow, if you give me whatever AV Super Friends logo you want, I'll get that on the 50-foot.
Not passing that up.
Don't tempt us.
You just send me, your highest res thing that you have, and we'll make
blow it
that
up there.
happen.
Get some pictures of that.
That would be
Exactly.
nice.
Yep.
With that picture of Jamie from this morning.
That was a good
Yeah.
picture.
The one of me passed out on the floor.
That was hilarious.
All right. Well, anybody else have anything interesting trend in news or noteworthy outside of Justin's busted knee?
I'm good. We're good.
Good?
Some
All
buffering,
good.
Advil,
No
I got
problem.
everything.
No, we're good. No problems.
What do you need, man? He's got it.
I'm good.
What do you need?
Just ask him.
Hey, man, I'll hook you up. What you got?
I got a guy.
I got some lights. I got some
Back room,
blues.
drug room.
His name is
purple.
Mickey.
So I guess that brings day 2 of this.
We're getting kicked off the floor.
No, you're not.
They're trying to.
We're
okay.
staying here tonight. We're going
we're gonna-
marathon.
we're gonna camp
not
out.
We're going to go all
kicked
night. Okay, well,
I
call
told
it.
them to
We
leave
are
the
doing
system
a
on.
fundraiser. We're
That's
trying
right.
to get.
I see bouncers coming our way.
Security's coming
I
our
don't know.
way. So
So,
NEM.
well, yeah. So from day 2, it sounds like we agree the internet is staying, maybe at least for another.
Oh, it
week
is.
or
It's just
two.
over there, and we can't touch it.
Yes, things are going on the network with breakneck speed, but we're also losing control and losing the battle over the network. And so
We
it'll
haven't
be
had a
interesting to see how
discussion
that
about
plays out.
power outlets on the network.
Yeah, well, it was all about power over the network, and I think there were some interesting data points we saw for large-scale deployments saving tens of thousands of dollars because they've gone with different solutions. So that was interesting too. I hadn't really calculated the power consumption savings for AV over IP, and that was a nice little morsel, so to speak. So, trend is IT.
Again,
You got IT in my AV, Chris.
It's the stuff. You got your chocolate, my peanut butter.
I think it happened.
All right. Well,
I like chocolate.
We'll close out today. We'll see what tomorrow brings. There's many more booths to visit. Lots more stuff to find out
At least
there.
another day
The
worth of stuff.
best day is tomorrow. So
Friday is the
Thanks
best
to
day at
Panasonic.
InfoComm.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thanks,
special
Darryl.
thanks to Panasonic Connect and Darryl for letting
I'll
us
bring
do
my
it.
Bluetooth speaker. It's
Yeah.
Alice Donuts doing Helter Skelter on the trombone. I
Nice.
just see that's going to be Chris's karaoke song.
Oh, my walking and talking music.
That's right. Thanks, you guys. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Darryl.
Well, that wraps up another episode of AV Super Friends Perspectives. If you have a perspective to share, you can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV Super Friends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.